Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Daniel Roman here for winteriscoming.net, and I am thrilled today to be here with Thomas Napper, who directed episodes 3 and 4 of The Wheel of Time season 3. Thomas, thank you so much for taking time to do this today.
No problem. Thank you.
Of course. First off, congratulations. Episode 4 is out. It's currently the highest rated episode of the series of all time on IMDb so far. I imagine this has been the culmination of quite a lot of work for you. So, how are you feeling now that your 2 episodes from the season are out in the world?
Um, yeah, it's been kind of overwhelming. The response has been um, pretty cool, to be honest. You never know how things are going to go down, and I think Wave said in an interview a couple of weeks ago that it was either going to be the most hated episode of all time or the most loved, and he couldn't quite tell which one it was, and I didn't know either. Sort of, you just don't know how it's going to sit because it's such a crucial kind of opening up of the history of the show.
Yeah.
It's a massive kind of time slice through um, the Aiel culture and the kind of the way it works, and also it takes us. It helps you to understand time within the
Mm,
show. I think above and beyond everything else. Um, So I hope people find, their feet with it. It took me ages to kind of feel like really secure with it because on the
yeah.
page it was just overwhelming and it felt um, it felt like it was going to be a real challenge to make it.
Yeah. Speaking of like the challenge of it, I mean, we see Yosha Stradowski, Rand, kind of living 6 different lives throughout this episode of his character's ancestors. Which of those was either like the most fulfilling or interesting or challenging for you to film?
Oh gosh, I think they're all challenging in different ways. I would be interested to know how Yosha feels about that. I For me, because we'd done quite a lot of thinking beforehand, we'd been working on the characters, the prosthetics, the costumes for months prior to actually beginning the process. But Janduin was the first one in the sequence, and then also the
Hmm.
first one that we were going to do. Um, and and it starts with a huge fight sequence, which is kind of echoing Tigraine's fight at the end of series one that
Yeah.
Kieran shot, which is iconic fight sequence with a pregnant woman killing multiple warriors on Dragon Mount. Really memorable scene, and we sort of that's the level we're coming in at.
Yeah.
It's her husband, and it's Yosha. So it felt like we were coming in. The bar was quite high, so it felt quite there was quite a lot of pressure on that. It's a very big set, quite a kind of felt like quite a pressured moment, and yet somehow Yosha and I had been talking and working on the characters so much that we just felt totally in the zone together about
Yeah.
what we were doing, and it was kind of it became kind of enjoyable because we kind of felt that Janduin was like a beast. Like in war,
Huh.
he was like going to fight, like he was going to be nasty, and
Yeah.
and that felt kind of fun to go at it uh, to begin like that. And then he finds his Tigraine, his dead wife, and the baby's gone, and we go through that intense emotional scene with Tigraine, and Yosha just felt so in the zone. He felt so present with that performance, and then it turns to rage, and then it links back to the columns, and that was our first
Wow.
chapter. So it was like really intense, quite kind of intimidating, but kind of really intense to do. And then I just felt like Yosha was so well prepped and well he just knew what he wanted to try and achieve. And then we found this kind of real emotion in the scene and really
Yeah.
beautiful kind of moment. And so I have to say that one. I have to say that one. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's a standout moment of the episode. So on kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, you had a lot of Moraine flashes as well, and those are
Yeah,
all very quick, on kind of this rolling camera rig.
yeah.
So I'm sure that putting those together had its own challenges in terms of like sets and costumes and schedules and everything. Can you talk a little bit about how those scenes came together, and was there any specific one of those visions that was maybe the most memorable for you looking back on it to work on?
Oh gosh, I mean, in she's meant to have thousands and thousands of visions, which on the page
Yeah.
is like, how well. Hold on a second, guys. So there were lots of like lines in the script that were different. There were different visions. Um, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve with it was this feeling of powerlessness, so that she is able to see her futures play out, but she's not able to interact with them. She's only
Mm,
able to witness them, circumnavigate them, and then they're gone. And before they go upside down, so it feels kind of out of control. So
yeah.
they have a feeling of, for me, a feeling of like destiny unfolding. Like you can't stop this, like being in the wheel, right? So it's sort of it's a one hit deal, and so it meant working a lot with fight choreographers and the stunt team to choreograph the action. So Jan Petrina's the stunt choreographer extraordinaire, and then Marek's his assistant, who is also brilliant. And we worked building the scenes so that you could see everything as it unfolded. It was kind of like working out dance moves. There had to be really specific. I know it doesn't look like it in the finished thing, but they're really specific moves,
Yeah.
and they had to be rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. And at the same time as that, we were building the camera because it didn't exist. It's called a rollover rig, and
Oh,
we had to kind of engineer it. So a Czech engineer called Thomas worked with the director of photography and myself developing this camera system, and they both kind of came together. So we were rehearsing and building the scenes, designing and engineering the camera and the rig, and then testing it. And then when we started to shoot it, I think people got it, but it felt like
yeah.
we were trying to do something that was there's a little, we weren't quite sure it was going to come off, Um, yeah, but as I said, I think the feeling for me was Rosamund's experience in the rings is about seeing possible futures and making them feel distinctive and making them feel like as though they had a power of their own, like they had
Yeah.
their own, like there was nothing she could do to change it, like
Yeah.
fate. Yeah.
That's a very cool difference between her visions and Rand's. So I think we've got time for one more super quick question. So,
Okay.
if the Wheel of Time is renewed for a fourth season, would you want to return to work on it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even have to think about it.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, I think we're about out of time, but Thomas, thank you again so much for talking. Congratulations. The
Thank
episode is
you.
tremendous. And I loved episode 3 too. I know we didn't have time to talk about it, but really amazing work. So, best
Thank
of
you
luck
so
with the rest
much.
of the season.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, mate.